Hey, I'm Matt Manny. Thanks so much for joining me for today's devotional. We're on day 16. You're not alone when your heart aches. If you've ever had heartache deep within, it's almost too difficult to try to explain what exactly that feels like. It's tough for us to be able to express the depth of emotions that we're going through. And that's why one of the interesting things of songs is that many times songs are able to communicate in words and music what we struggle to create expressively in a conversation with someone. The collection of psalms from the Bible, the 150 psalms, are exactly that. They're songs that express the deep emotion that we feel within, just minus the notes and maybe the instrumental parts of it. We just have the words. But grief that we feel from heartache, it's not just for the loss of a loved one. It could be for any type of loss we go through. The loss of an opportunity, the loss of a dream, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a position maybe at our workplace. So grief isn't just the picture of us standing by a graveside as the rain's coming down. If you've ever noticed in most movie scenes where there's a funeral, it's always raining. Have you ever noticed that? It gives that sense of despondency and just distress. But David, he talked about the fact that he understood what it was to struggle through heartache and heartbreak. If you had a problem and you find yourself in a situation where you sense, well, maybe I just need to suck it up, maybe I just need to pull it all together, that we can stuff our emotions, we can suppress our emotions, but eventually our body actually keeps the score, and eventually those emotions are going to take a toll on us if we don't know how to appropriately express those to God and be able to express those to others in appropriate ways. And so as we look in the devotional for today, it's not about shutting down. It's not about growing cold. It's not about just kind of stuffing things. It's about how to process through the heartache we're going through. David didn't hold back. He was a processor, bar none. He had heartbreak over and over again. He had heartbreak over people trying to attack him. He had heartbreak over missed opportunities, heartbreak over family members and loved ones who had turned their backs on him. Even the loss, as we mentioned in previous devotionals, the loss of some of his kids. It's interesting to note we can find ourselves getting into some tough situations where we don't know how to express those emotions. I remember hearing a story one time a pastor had shared with me about how he went to a conference that was about having excellence in ministry and excellence in leadership. And as he went, he was looking for some tools and skills to be able to increase his leadership ability and his pastoring. But what he found out was it was a lot of soul work deep within. And he found that a lot of what was being taught on was very uncomfortable for him because it was poking and pushing in on some very vulnerable parts that are important to leadership, but he wasn't comfortable with sharing. At one point in the conference, the lead host, he invited pastors to go ahead and process verbally what was going on, and he took volunteers. And so at one point, a pastor raised his hand and he stood up and walked to the front. The host asked him a few questions, and then the pastor took the mic and he began to process verbally what he was going through. And all of a sudden, in one kind of a fell swoop, he just kind of let out a massive expletive because of all the frustration, and he just said it over and over and over again. The pastor who was sitting there in the audience who related this story, he said it was kind of uncomfortable and awkward at first, but then he realized the depth of the emotion of this guy and realized that as he began to weep and cry, it wasn't just a matter of saying an expletive, a curse word, if you will, but there's a lot of pain that this guy was trying to process through and just get off his chest and get out of his soul. David talks about that. Over and over again, we find David saying things like Psalm 6 verse 3, I am sick at heart. How long, O Lord, until you restore me? He says in Psalm 13 verse 2, how long must I struggle with anguish in my soul, with sorrow in my heart every day? Psalm 22:14, he says, my life is poured out like water. All my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax melting within me. That's a lot of heartache. That's a lot of distress. He says in Psalm 73 verse 26, Asaph, we've mentioned him multiple times through this series. Asaph says this, my health may fail and my spirit may grow weak, but God remains the strength of my heart. He is mine forever. In one translation it says, he is my portion forever. That is, that God is for me and with me. In Psalm 34 verse 2, David says, I will boast only in the Lord. Let all who are helpless take heart. How? By making our claim, staking our claim and boasting in God. Whatever grief that has gone on in your life that's gone unspoken, whatever grace is waiting to replace and fill that space, it's just a matter of time if you allow the grief to be removed and to be expressed to God and allow grace to replace that space of grief in your life. For further encouragement, go ahead and look up Psalm 34 verses 17 through 19 for further encouragement and study. Thanks so much for watching.